It was a peaceful afternoon in a small town where life followed its usual rhythm. Children played in the streets, residents chatted on balconies, and the hum of bicycles echoed through the sidewalks. Everything seemed perfectly harmonious until a sudden sound shattered the calm. A distant ambulance siren, sharp and urgent, pierced the air. The townspeople quickly realized something serious was unfolding. The ambulance sped through narrow streets, the paramedics inside focused entirely on their mission: saving a life. In the back seat, a man was battling against time, desperate for immediate medical attention. Every passing second felt like an eternity as the vehicle maneuvered through sharp corners and tight alleys, rushing toward the hospital. But then, something unexpected occurred. As the ambulance approached one of the town's main intersections, it screeched to an abrupt halt. There, in the middle of its path, stood a dog. It wasn't just any dog. It was a large animal with shaggy fur and piercing eyes fixed on the vehicle as if daring it to proceed. The driver honked repeatedly, but the dog stood its ground. The paramedics shouted, trying to scare it away, but it refused to budge. A crowd of curious onlookers began to gather, whispering among themselves. Some tried whistling, others offered scraps of food to lure the dog away, but nothing worked. The dog remained still, resolute, as though it had a purpose no one else could comprehend. Time seemed to slow down as tension mounted. Why was the dog blocking the ambulance? Why wouldn't it move despite the urgency of the situation? Suggestions poured in from the crowd. Some tried calling the animal affectionately. Others waved treats in front of it. Yet the dog seemed oblivious to all attempts, its behavior shrouded in mystery. Frustration began to simmer among the onlookers. The patient inside the ambulance was running out of time, and the situation was growing more critical by the second. Amid the chaos, someone suggested calling Dr. Emily, the town's veterinarian. Known for her deep understanding of animals and calm demeanor, Emily was the perfect person for such an unusual challenge. Minutes later, Emily arrived at the scene, her white coat billowing slightly in the breeze. Her calm and confident presence seemed to bring a sense of hope to the anxious crowd. As she approached the dog cautiously, she studied it with a trained eye, trying to understand what had compelled the animal to stand so firmly in the ambulance's way. Everyone around Emily was either impatient or perplexed, but she noticed something others couldn't: the dog's eyes. They held an unusual intensity, as though he was desperately trying to communicate something beyond human understanding. It became clear to Emily that the dog wasn't there by chance. His calm but resolute demeanor suggested a deeper purpose. "Calm down, friend," Emily said softly, kneeling to meet the dog at eye level. Her voice was gentle and reassuring. The dog didn't growl or flinch. Instead, he tilted his head slightly, as though acknowledging her kindness. His eyes were filled with urgency and intelligence, which made Emily pause. It was as if he were pleading to be understood, as though he had a message no one had yet realized. As the crowd fell silent, watching intently, Emily extended her hand toward the dog, giving him the chance to sense her presence. He sniffed her hand, and with a small wag of his tail, showed he trusted her. This wasn't just any stray, Emily could feel it. There was something in his behavior, calm yet determined, that went far beyond mere instinct. "This dog isn't here by accident," Emily said firmly, looking at the paramedics and the crowd. "Give me a few minutes. I think he's trying to show us something." Demeanor won the dog's trust. Slowly, she coaxed him to the sidewalk, clearing the ambulance's path. The vehicle roared back to life, rushing off to the hospital. A collective sigh of relief swept through the gathered residents. But for Emily, this was only the beginning. Now sitting beside her, the dog seemed to remain on high alert. His shaggy fur and tired appearance suggested hardship, yet there was something about him, an air of intelligence and purpose, that set him apart from other strays. His watchful eyes scanned the street, restless but not in search of food or shelter. Instead, he seemed anxious, as if waiting for someone to finally understand him. "You're not just any dog, are you?" Emily murmured, gently stroking his head. The dog seemed grateful, but his unease persisted. It was as if he needed her to grasp what he couldn't express. Trusting her instincts, Emily made a decision. She couldn't leave him on the street. Whatever his mission was, it wasn't complete. "Come on, friend, we'll figure this out together," she said, her voice steady and comforting. She led him to her veterinary clinic, where she began a thorough examination. The dog was thin and appeared worn down by hardship, but he didn't seem entirely abandoned. His teeth were clean, and his paws showed signs of extensive walking, possibly over many miles. Most strikingly, his mannerisms hinted at training, a disciplined past that raised more questions. Emily couldn't shake the feeling that this dog carried a story, one she was determined to uncover. The dog responded to simple commands, sat without being told, and exhibited remarkable discipline, traits uncommon in street dogs. Emily was certain he had once had an owner, and deep down, she suspected that his owner might be the key to the mystery behind his unusual behavior. The next morning, Emily decided to take him for a walk through the streets near her clinic. Unlike most dogs, he didn't wander aimlessly. Instead, he walked with purpose, as though he knew exactly where he wanted to go. Suddenly, he stopped in front of an alley, his gaze fixed on the dark end of the street. Then he turned and looked at Emily, almost as if he was asking her to follow. "Okay, I'll trust you," Emily said, curiosity overcoming her hesitation. The dog led her down the alley with determination, pausing occasionally to sniff specific spots, as though searching for clues. At one point, he stopped and pawed at a torn piece of fabric caught on a fence. Emily picked it up and noticed it was part of a jacket, scorched with soot. The dog wagged his tail, as if confirming its importance. Intrigued, Emily continued to follow him. Each stop seemed deliberate, as though the dog was piecing together a story he couldn't articulate. At one point, Emily realized this was no random walk. He was guiding her to something significant. The pattern of his behavior hinted at a connection to someone or something yet to be uncovered. Determined to understand, Emily began her own investigation. Back at the clinic, she asked local residents if anyone recognized the dog. At first, the responses were dismissive. "Maybe he's just a stray," some suggested. But Emily knew it wasn't that simple. Her first breakthrough came during a conversation with a firefighter who had brought his cat for a checkup. "That dog looks familiar," the firefighter said, eyeing the animal sitting calmly at Emily's side. "He looks a lot like Michael's dog. Do you remember Michael?" Emily's brow furrowed. Michael was a name everyone in the town knew, a dedicated firefighter known for his bravery. But weeks ago, Michael had mysteriously disappeared. "Michael had a dog named Buddy," the firefighter continued. "He always said Buddy was more than just a pet, he was part of the team. That dog was trained to detect dangers, like fires or hazardous substances. After Michael went missing, no one saw Buddy again." Emily's heart raced as the pieces started to come together. She looked at the dog, Buddy, and stroked his head. His attentive eyes and calm demeanor made it seem as though he understood every word. "So you're Buddy?" "They're talking about you," Emily whispered, glancing at Buddy. The firefighter nodded. "If this really is Michael's dog, you have an extraordinary companion. He and Michael were inseparable." Emily's mind raced as she pieced the story together. Michael had disappeared weeks ago, not long after he began investigating a series of suspicious fires across the city. Although the fires caused minimal damage, Michael had been convinced there was something more sinister behind them. He had a knack for sensing danger, and it seemed he was close to uncovering the truth. Now, Buddy appeared to be picking up where Michael left off. In the following days, Emily carefully tracked the places Buddy led her. His movements weren't random, every stop had a purpose. She soon realized the locations were all tied to the fires Michael had been investigating. An alley here, an abandoned house there, even a materials warehouse. All bore telltale signs of fire, soot stains, charred wood, and the faint lingering smell of smoke. "He's retracing Michael's path," Emily murmured one morning as Buddy stopped outside an old warehouse. Inside, she found another clue, a piece of charred paper covered in cryptic notes. Though she couldn't decipher them, she knew they were important. Buddy wagged his tail and barked softly, urging her to move forward. The connection between Buddy and his missing owner grew stronger with every step. Buddy wasn't just a loyal dog. He was the key to uncovering what had happened to Michael. With Buddy's guidance, Emily resolved to follow the trail, even if it led her into danger. The next morning, armed with a backpack of essentials and a notebook for documenting clues, Emily prepared herself for whatever lay ahead. Buddy seemed to sense her determination. He led her with purpose, winding through narrow alleys and forgotten streets, as though every step was part of a larger plan. Their first stop was an abandoned warehouse. The soot-covered walls and faint smoky smell hinted at a recent fire. As Emily explored the dimly lit space, her eyes landed on an old firefighter's hat in the corner. She picked it up, her breath catching as she noticed the initials MS embroidered on the brim. "This was Michael's," Emily whispered, her voice trembling. Buddy wagged his tail slowly, his intelligent eyes confirming her discovery. "We're close, aren't we, boy?" Emily asked, kneeling to stroke his head. Buddy barked softly in response, then turned to sniff the ground again, leading her out of the warehouse and onward to their next destination. Their second stop was in a quiet, rarely visited section of the city park. There, Emily found the remnants of a small, unlit fire surrounded by charred pieces of wood. The ashes were still fresh. As she crouched to examine them, Buddy sniffed the area intently, circling the spot as though trying to pick up a trail. Emily's heart raced. Whatever Michael had been investigating wasn't just a coincidence. She was getting closer to unraveling the mystery, closer to the truth, and closer to danger. Buddy's unwavering determination gave her strength. Whatever secrets the city's shadows held, they would uncover them together. The unknown. Emily's heart pounded as she took in the eerie sight of the massive, decaying building. Buddy stood still, his posture tense but focused. His sharp eyes scanned the area, and he let out a soft whimper, as if to say, "This is it." Emily approached cautiously, her senses heightened by the eerie silence that surrounded the place. The warehouse seemed untouched for years, but something felt off, like it was hiding secrets waiting to be uncovered. "All right, Buddy," she whispered, gripping her notebook tightly. "Let's see what you've brought me to." The dog led her toward a side entrance where the rusted metal door hung slightly ajar. The air inside was heavy with the smell of mildew and something chemical, similar to the scent she had noticed earlier at the park. Emily pulled out a flashlight from her backpack and scanned the interior. The warehouse was vast, filled with abandoned machinery, broken crates, and piles of debris. Buddy moved with precision, sniffing the ground and occasionally stopping to inspect specific spots. Near one corner of the warehouse, he stopped abruptly and barked twice, drawing Emily's attention. She knelt beside him and noticed what had caught his interest: a pile of ashes mixed with scraps of paper. Among the debris was a charred notebook, its cover partially intact. Emily carefully picked it up, her hands trembling. She opened it to find pages filled with handwritten notes and diagrams. Although much of it was damaged, a few words stood out: accelerant, ignition, target. Her stomach turned as the realization hit her. This was evidence of arson. Buddy whined softly, nudging her with his nose. He moved a few steps ahead, leading her to another spot nearby. There, Emily found a small metal canister with traces of a flammable liquid. It was clear now that this place had been used to plan or execute the very fires Michael had been investigating. "This is what Michael was looking for," Emily murmured, her voice barely audible. "But why here? And who's behind this?" She continued documenting everything, taking photos and jotting down notes. Buddy remained vigilant, his eyes darting around as if he was on high alert. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps echoed in the distance, breaking the oppressive silence. Emily froze, her pulse quickening. She turned off her flashlight and crouched low, her heart pounding. Buddy pressed against her side, growling softly, but not loudly enough to give away their position. "Someone's here," she whispered, her voice barely audible. In the dim light filtering through the broken windows, Emily could make out the silhouette of a man entering the warehouse. He moved with purpose, heading straight to the area where she had found the ashes and notebook. He crouched down and began rummaging through the debris, muttering to himself. Emily's mind raced. Was this the person Michael had been tracking? Was he responsible for the fires? She knew she had to act quickly but carefully. She reached into her backpack, pulled out her phone, and began recording the scene, capturing the man's actions. Buddy stayed quiet but watchful, his body tense as if ready to defend her if needed. After a few minutes, the man stood up, holding something in his hand, a lighter. Emily's grip tightened on her phone. She didn't know what his next. The dark warehouse. Paramedics rushed in, quickly assessing Michael's condition and preparing to transport him to the hospital. Buddy stayed by his side, refusing to leave even as they loaded Michael onto the stretcher. "You did it, Buddy," Michael whispered weakly, his hand resting on the dog's head. Buddy nuzzled him gently, his tail wagging slightly as if he understood the weight of Michael's words. Emily stood back, watching the scene with a mixture of relief and awe. Buddy's unwavering determination and loyalty had led them to this moment. She couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than just a reunion. It was the beginning of uncovering something much bigger. As the ambulance drove away, Emily glanced back at the warehouse. There were still unanswered questions, pieces of the puzzle that needed to be found. Michael's revelations hinted at a dangerous conspiracy, and the evidence left in the warehouse could be the key to exposing it. Determined to see it through, Emily resolved to return to the warehouse once things settled with Michael. She looked down at Buddy, who sat quietly beside her now, his alert eyes scanning their surroundings. "Looks like we've got more work to do, Buddy," she said softly, stroking his fur. He looked up at her and barked, his tail wagging slightly, as if ready for whatever came next. Missing firefighter and his loyal dog. It was the start of uncovering a larger truth, one that Buddy and Emily were determined to bring to light together. "Find help. He's not just a dog, he's my partner," Michael said, his eyes glistening with emotion. As the pieces came together, the city's authorities were alerted. Emily, Michael, and Buddy worked closely with the fire department to retrace the steps and uncover the truth behind the fires. Buddy's instincts and training played a pivotal role in guiding investigators to other locations where traces of the chemical accelerant were found. The evidence pointed to a larger conspiracy, a group of individuals planning something far more dangerous than small-scale fires. It seemed the earlier incidents were mere tests for a bigger scheme that could have endangered countless lives. Through relentless efforts and Buddy's incredible skills, the authorities were able to apprehend those responsible. The city owed its safety to the loyalty and determination of one remarkable dog and the bond he shared with his owner. Buddy became a local legend. The town celebrated him with a special ceremony where he was officially recognized as a hero. Children adored him, and he became a symbol of hope and courage. As for Emily, her life was forever changed by the experience. She developed a deeper understanding of the unique connection between humans and animals. Michael and Buddy's story reminded her why she became a veterinarian in the first place, to honor and nurture that bond. One quiet afternoon, as Emily sat outside her clinic with Buddy at her side, she reflected on everything that had happened. "You're not just a hero, Buddy," she said with a smile, stroking his fur. "You're a reminder of what loyalty, love, and determination can achieve." Buddy wagged his tail, resting his head on her lap, his eyes filled with the same unwavering spirit that had guided them through the darkest of times. Together, they had proven that even in the face of danger, the bond between a human and their dog could illuminate the path to safety and truth. Springfield could breathe a sigh of relief. The fires that had plagued the community were no longer a threat, and the bond between Buddy and Michael became a symbol of resilience and trust. Buddy's fame spread beyond Springfield, inspiring countless people with his story. Local schools invited Michael and Buddy to speak about their experiences, teaching children about courage, loyalty, and the importance of standing up for what is right. Emily, now considered part of their family, often accompanied them, sharing how Buddy's instincts and Michael's determination had not only solved the mystery, but also strengthened the community's faith in the extraordinary relationship between humans and animals. As weeks turned into months, life in Springfield returned to normal. But Buddy's story was immortalized in the town's history. A statue of Buddy was erected in the city park, depicting him with his signature alert pose, symbolizing vigilance and bravery. Michael, Emily, and Buddy continued their partnership, often helping in local initiatives and firefighting efforts. The trio became known as Springfield's Guardians of Justice, proving that even in the darkest times, hope can shine through, led by the unwavering loyalty of a dog who refused to give up. Softly, his voice filled with gratitude. Because of you, we're here, safe and stronger than ever. Buddy leaned against Michael's leg, wagging his tail as if to say, I was just doing what I had to do. Emily smiled, her gaze shifting between Michael and Buddy. You know, she said, he's not just a hero to you. He's a hero to everyone here. He reminded us all how powerful love and loyalty can be. Michael nodded, running a hand through Buddy's fur. He's not just a dog, he's family, my partner, my guardian angel. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of gold and crimson, the trio sat in comfortable silence. The city behind them buzzed with life, filled with people who would never forget the remarkable story of Buddy, the dog who never gave up. From that day forward, Buddy's legacy lived on, not just as a tale of heroism, but as a beacon of hope, proving that even in the face of darkness, loyalty and love could light the way. And for Michael, Emily, and Buddy, it was the beginning of a new chapter, one filled with endless possibilities and the unshakable bond they now shared. This closing reflection beautifully wraps up Buddy's story and its powerful impact. By connecting the story to the personal experiences of viewers, it invites them to reflect on the deep, often transformative bond between humans and their pets. The call to action, asking viewers to share their own stories, encourages engagement and makes the narrative even more relatable. For a final touch, you might consider adding a note about the importance of animal welfare or how animals enrich our lives, tying in the deeper message of Buddy's journey. Here's how you could wrap it up. Whether it's a dog, cat, or any other pet, we all have a special bond with our animal companions that can teach us the truest lessons of loyalty, love, and courage. Buddy's journey reminds us that sometimes the quietest among us are the real heroes. Thank you for watching, and remember, no matter how big or small, every act of love matters.